Sometimes, I wonder if I'll ever feel free. Not just in some philosophical way, but in the simple, everyday sense, free from the constant squeeze of bills, debts, and the endless, creeping rise of prices that outpace every cent I manage to earn. I'm 27, working 2 jobs that barely cover rent and groceries, and yet, every month it feels like I'm running on a treadmill that speeds up without mercy. The harder I push, the further away financial stability drifts. I grew up hearing about getting a good education and working hard as the keys to success, but reality has a cruel way of twisting those promises. My degree, which cost me thousands in loans, feels less like a ticket to opportunity and more like a heavy anchor dragging me down. Each paycheck vanishes as soon as it lands: rent, utilities, transportation, food, phone bills, and on and on. The price of everything seems to climb relentlessly, but my income? It barely moves, if it moves at all. The cost of a gallon of milk, my morning coffee, the bus fare, it all chips away at what little breathing room I have. Every day, I'm faced with choices that no one my age should have to make. Should I skip lunch to save money? Should I hold off on seeing a doctor because I can't afford the copay? Should I refuse invitations from friends because I simply don't have the cash to go out? These aren't hypothetical questions, they're my reality. The system feels rigged. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter what I do, the water leaks out faster than I can pour it in. This ongoing financial pressure isn't just about money. It gnaws at my sense of self-worth. I catch myself shrinking away in social situations, embarrassed to admit I'm scraping by. I've learned to fake the smile, laugh a little too loudly to cover the stress, and avoid conversations about money altogether. It's exhausting, pretending that everything's okay when inside I'm scrambling just to keep my head above water. There's a constant background hum of anxiety that never quite goes silent. It wakes me up in the middle of the night, thoughts swirling about overdue bills, unexpected expenses, or the possibility of losing one of my jobs. I try meditation, journaling, and sometimes just lying still and breathing deeply, but the worries cling tight. It feels like being trapped in a small, dimly lit room with no door, just walls closing in little by little. I remember my dreams, before reality hit so hard. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond the city skyline, to pursue a career where I felt passionate and valued. I imagined owning a little apartment, decorating it with plants and art, maybe adopting a dog. These dreams feel like distant stars now, beautiful but unreachable. I've had to postpone, and then postpone again, any plans that require spending money beyond the bare essentials. Even saving money seems impossible. The idea of an emergency fund, a cushion, feels like a cruel joke. One broken phone screen, one car repair, one medical bill, and I'm back at zero, or worse. Every dollar is accounted for weeks in advance, which leaves little room for spontaneity or joy. To cope, I've learned to find small moments of relief. Cooking simple meals from scratch, watching free movies at home, taking long walks in the park where the air feels a little lighter, the sky a little wider. Sometimes, I find strength in community, chatting with friends who understand, joining online groups where people share tips for living frugally without losing their minds. It's not much, but it helps to know I'm not alone in this. Despite everything, I still hold on to hope. Hope that someday the system will shift, that wages will rise alongside costs, that my work will be recognized with more than just a paycheck that barely stretches. Hope that I'll have the chance to live without the shadow of constant financial fear. It's a fragile hope, but it's all I've got. I speak openly about this because so many young adults are caught in the same storm. We're not lazy or unmotivated, we're navigating a world where the rules are stacked against us. Being honest about this struggle feels like a small act of rebellion, refusing to be silenced or shamed by a system that profits from our hardship. One day, I want to tell a different story. One where I'm not just surviving, but thriving. Where money doesn't dictate every choice or steal every joy. Until then, I keep going, paycheck to paycheck, hope to hope, holding on to the belief that better days are possible, even if they feel impossibly far away right now. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never thought I'd feel this way, like I'm sinking deeper into quicksand every single day, even though I'm working harder than I ever imagined. It's strange, really, how life just keeps piling on expenses, and no matter how much I push, the pile never seems to get any smaller. Every month, I'm trying to stretch what little I make, but somehow the numbers just don't add up. The rent, the utilities, groceries, gas, insurance, even the occasional coffee that used to feel like a small luxury, it all feels like it's creeping up faster than my paycheck. I'm 26 now, out of college for a few years, and honestly, I thought by this point I'd be somewhere different. Not rich or anything like that, I didn't dream about buying a mansion or anything grand, but just stable. Comfortable. Able to save a little, maybe travel once in a while, not have to choose between filling my fridge and paying a bill. But that's not where I am. Instead, I'm constantly making decisions that feel like survival tactics, trying to avoid sinking deeper into debt or missing a payment. Some days, the weight of it all is crushing. I wake up and the first thought is what bills need to be paid today, and it's like this low hum in the back of my mind that never quite goes away. Even when I'm at work, focused on a project or chatting with colleagues, that stress is there, creeping in. I've noticed it started to affect my sleep. Sometimes I lie awake for hours, thinking about what I can cut, what I can postpone, whether I should pick up a second job or just pray that some unexpected expense doesn't show up. The economic environment isn't helping, either. Everywhere I look, prices are climbing. The grocery store aisles are like a cruel joke sometimes. I remember buying a simple box of cereal for $3.50 last year, and now it's $5.20. Gas prices have gone up again, and that's money out of my pocket before I even start the day. Rent? That's a whole other nightmare. My apartment lease just got renewed, and the landlord raised the rent again. I get it, landlords have bills too, but for me, it feels like a chokehold tightening around my chest. I'm paying almost half my income just to keep a roof over my head, and the rest barely covers essentials. What's maddening is that my income isn't stagnant, it's grown, but barely. Maybe a small raise here or there, but nothing that keeps pace with the rising costs. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up. No matter how fast I run, I'm stuck in the same place. It makes me feel trapped, like the system is rigged. I work hard. I try to be responsible, budget carefully, avoid unnecessary spending, and still I'm behind. Behind on my savings goals, behind on paying off my student loans, behind on feeling like I have control. I've had to postpone so many dreams because of this. I was supposed to travel this year, just a small trip, maybe to see a friend across the country or visit a place I've always wanted to go. But that idea had to be shelved. Vacations feel like an indulgence I can't afford when every dollar counts toward bills or groceries. I've thought about buying a car because public transportation here is unreliable, but the thought of monthly payments, insurance, and maintenance costs is terrifying. I keep telling myself I'll do it someday, but someday always seems out of reach. Social life has suffered, too. I used to go out more, dinner with friends, catching a movie, grabbing drinks, but those things add up fast. I've become the person who suggests let's hang out at my place or we can do a potluck because it's cheaper. I don't mind it entirely, I enjoy those moments, but sometimes it feels like I'm missing out, or that my friends don't fully understand why I'm saying no so often. The emotional toll of feeling isolated or different is real. I want to be spontaneous, carefree even, but financial pressure has forced me into a mode of constant calculation. Coping with all of this has been a journey. I found some solace in small routines, budgeting apps that help me track every penny, meal prepping to avoid the temptation of eating out, and free hobbies like reading or hiking. But there are days when I just feel exhausted by it all, emotionally and mentally drained. I sometimes catch myself wondering if I'm failing somehow, if other people my age have it easier or if I'm just not managing well enough. That kind of self-doubt can be brutal. At night, when things are quiet and I have a moment to breathe, I let myself dream. I think about a future where I'm not always anxious about money, where I can say yes to opportunities instead of no. I imagine having a home that feels truly mine, where I'm not worried about rent hikes. I picture paying off my debts completely and having savings that make me feel secure. Those dreams keep me going, even though they seem distant now. The harsh truth I'm learning is that I'm part of a larger system that feels indifferent to people like me, young adults trying to find our footing in an economy that demands more than it gives back. It's a system where expenses grow faster than income, where financial stability feels like a moving target. But despite the frustration and fear, I'm holding on. I'm pushing through, trying to find balance, and reminding myself that this struggle doesn't define my worth. One day, I hope to look back on this time and see it as the chapter that made me resilient, resourceful, and grateful for the moments of peace amid chaos. Until then, I'll keep making the hard choices, coping the best I can, and dreaming of a future where I can breathe easier. Because even when it feels like the world is against me, hope is the one thing I won't let go of. I never thought I'd be writing about money like this, not in my 20s, at least. But here I am, staring at my phone screen in the dim glow of my cramped apartment, scrolling through my bank app and trying to make sense of numbers that never seem to add up. It's like I'm caught in this endless cycle where expenses grow faster than my paycheck, and no matter how hard I try, I can't seem to get ahead. It's exhausting, both physically and emotionally. When I was younger, I used to believe that if I worked hard, everything else would fall into place. That if I just got the right job, managed my time well, and kept pushing forward, I'd be able to build a stable life. But reality has a way of slapping you in the face when you least expect it. The rent keeps climbing. The groceries are more expensive every month. The utility bills, the car repairs, the unexpected medical costs, they pile up, and I feel like I'm constantly playing catch-up. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. Everyday decisions have turned into high-stakes gambles. Should I buy that slightly cheaper brand of food that tastes like cardboard? Or should I splurge a little and try to eat something decent? Should I keep my phone plan on the lowest possible tier, even if it means I'm always running out of data and can't call anyone when I need to? Should I skip seeing a doctor for that persistent ache because the copay alone would wipe out half my weekly budget? These small choices aren't really choices, they're compromises, sacrifices, and sometimes, betrayals of my own well-being. Work doesn't feel like an escape either. I'm stuck in a job that pays just enough to keep me afloat but not enough to save or dream. The anxiety around money seeps into every part of my life. I find myself waking up in the middle of the night, heart racing, calculating bills and deadlines, wondering if I'll have to borrow from friends again or if I'll be able to cover rent next month. It's a constant background noise that never goes away, like static on a radio you can't turn off. The emotional toll is heavy. I feel trapped, like I'm living in a system that's designed to keep me just one step behind. I see advertisements for things I want, vacations, new clothes, even a night out with friends, but I have to push those desires down, bury them under a mountain of not now and maybe someday. It's lonely, too. I watch people around me celebrate milestones, buying homes, starting families, traveling the world. Meanwhile, I'm still trying to figure out how to pay for next week's groceries. Coping has become its own survival skill. I try to find small moments of joy in free things, a walk in the park, a chat with a friend, binge-watching a show that distracts me from the pressure. Sometimes I write in a journal or listen to music that matches my mood, hoping to feel less alone. I reach out when I can, but there's shame in admitting you're struggling, especially when everyone else seems to be doing fine. Still, I remind myself that this pressure doesn't define me, even if it feels like it consumes me. My dreams haven't disappeared, but they're shelved for now. I wanted to travel, to see places beyond this city, beyond these four walls. I wanted to go back to school, maybe study something I love instead of just what pays the bills. I imagined having a home filled with warmth, where I could invite friends without worrying about the cost of heating or electricity. Those dreams feel distant, like stars just out of reach, but they still flicker somewhere inside me. They keep me going. Sometimes, in my quietest moments, I let myself imagine a different future, a life where I'm not constantly stressed about money, where I can afford to take care of myself without guilt, where I have the freedom to choose happiness over survival. It feels fragile, but it's real. I hold on to that hope, even when the days are hard and the system feels overwhelming. This isn't just a personal story, it's a reality for so many people my age. We're navigating an economic landscape that's unforgiving, where the rules seem stacked against us, and the safety nets are full of holes. But I'm still here, still trying, still hoping. Because sometimes, that's all we can do, keep moving forward, one small step at a time. And maybe someday, those postponed dreams will no longer be out of reach. Until then, I'll keep fighting the quiet fight, day by day. It's funny how life feels like this constant balancing act, one where the weights keep getting heavier but the platform under me never gets any bigger. I'm 26, trying to make sense of adulthood, and it feels like the economic ground beneath me is cracking faster than I can patch it up. Every day, I wake up with this gnawing knot in my stomach, not because I'm afraid of what I might do, but because of what I can't do. What I should be doing but can't afford to. I grew up hearing the usual: work hard, get a steady job, save up, maybe buy a house one day. But the reality? It's like that story was written in a world that doesn't exist anymore. Rent keeps going up, groceries cost more than they used to, and utilities? Don't get me started. My paycheck gets deposited, and before I even blink, most of it is gone. The math just doesn't add up, and it's not because I'm careless. I've been pinching pennies since forever. Some mornings, I stand in front of the fridge, staring at the nearly empty shelves, calculating in my head what I can stretch for the week. A loaf of bread here, a few eggs there. I don't even think about cravings anymore. I think about what will keep me full enough to get through work. Eating out? That's a luxury from a different life, one I had before the bills piled up and the paycheck stayed the same. It's like the world's moving forward, but I'm stuck on pause, treading water and trying not to drown in rising costs. I share a small apartment with a roommate to keep rent affordable. Privacy is scarce, but it's a compromise I accept because the alternative is far worse. Some nights, when I'm alone in my room, I just lie there thinking about how much I wish things were different. How much I wish I had the freedom to go out with friends, to travel, or even to just buy a decent winter coat without the anxiety gnawing at me. But those dreams? They've been pushed further down the list, way down, almost out of sight. The pressure doesn't just affect my wallet, it gets inside my head and settles there. There's this constant feeling of being trapped, like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up but my legs are getting heavier. Every month, I watch my savings shrink or vanish completely because unexpected expenses pop up: car repairs, medical bills, or just life being unpredictable. It's exhausting, and sometimes I wonder how much longer I can keep this up without breaking. I try to cope by focusing on small things: a walk in the park, binge-watching shows, reading whatever I can get for free. These moments are my little pockets of relief, brief pauses from the stress. But they're just distractions. When the quiet comes, the worry floods back in, louder than before. I've also tried to be open about this with people I care about, but there's this stigma around financial struggles, especially when you're young. It's like admitting you're struggling makes you less capable or less responsible, and that's hard to swallow. So, often I keep it to myself, putting on a brave face even when I'm anxious or tired. The truth is, I'm scared. Scared of falling behind, of never catching up, of always feeling like I'm just one emergency away from disaster. Despite it all, I haven't given up on my dreams entirely. I still hope for a life where money isn't the barrier to happiness, where I can plan for the future without this cloud of uncertainty looming over me. I want to learn new skills, maybe start a small business or go back to school. I want to feel stable, to have the freedom to make choices not dictated by financial fear. But those dreams are fragile now, suspended by the harsh reality that right now, survival takes precedence over everything else. Some days, I write down my goals, reminding myself that this isn't permanent, that I'm working towards something better, even if it's hard to see the path clearly. I'm learning to be kind to myself in the moments when it feels like I'm failing, to recognize that living with this pressure every day is its own kind of strength. Being caught in this system, where expenses rise faster than income and the promises of hard work pays off feel hollow, has changed me. It's forced me to grow up faster than I expected and to find resilience in places I didn't know I had. But it's also left me vulnerable, sometimes overwhelmed, and aching for a future where I don't have to worry about whether I can afford to live. This story isn't just mine. It's the reality for so many of us trying to build a life in an economy that feels stacked against us. And maybe by sharing it, I can remind someone else they're not alone in this struggle, and that even in the pressure and the uncertainty, there's still hope, quiet, fragile, but real. So here I am, still fighting, still hoping, still trying to breathe through the tightness that comes with knowing the system isn't built for people like me, but still daring to believe that one day, it might just work in my favor. I never thought I'd find myself here, stuck in this endless loop where every dollar I earn disappears before I can even catch my breath. It's like the world is moving faster, prices climbing higher every month, and I'm sprinting just to stay in place. I'm 27, working full-time, trying my best, but it feels like the system is built to keep me small, to keep me barely afloat. I wake up most mornings with this weight on my chest. Not quite panic, not quite sadness, but this dull, constant pressure that tells me, you're not enough. You don't have enough. And it's not because I'm lazy or irresponsible. I work hard, 40 hours a week, sometimes more, but my paycheck doesn't stretch like it used to. Rent alone gobbles up nearly half of what I make, and the rest has to cover food, bills, transit, and the rare little things that make life bearable. It's a precarious balance, and one unexpected expense can tip the whole thing over. Groceries are a nightmare now. I used to enjoy cooking fresh meals, trying new recipes on weekends. Now, I'm calculating cost per meal like it's a math test, looking for sales, skipping ingredients that seem too pricey. I've gotten good at finding cheap staples, rice, beans, frozen vegetables, but there's this sadness in eating the same bland meals week after week. It's like the joy in food has been sucked out because I'm always thinking about how much I'm spending. Bills are worse. Utilities keep rising, and I'm constantly juggling which payment to prioritize. Sometimes I think about just turning off the heat in winter, but then the thought of freezing in my own apartment scares me. So I overheat the place and shiver later because the money just isn't there. Internet, phone, transit cards, they all pile up and I hate how tied I feel to these costs, like they're invisible chains I didn't sign up for but can't escape. There's also the feeling of being small in a big machine. Like the economy is this massive engine designed to make money for some and bleed it from others. Inflation means my rent goes up, my groceries go up, my gas prices climb, but my paycheck stays stubbornly the same. Every year, I get a tiny raise, if I'm lucky, but it's swallowed by the rising costs before it even lands in my pocket. It's demoralizing. You start to wonder, why bother working harder if it doesn't actually get you anywhere? That pressure leaks into everything. I can't afford to go out with friends anymore. The weekend dinners, the movies, the concerts, those are all luxuries now. I feel like I'm watching life from the sidelines. Sometimes I say no because I literally can't afford it, but sometimes I say no because I don't want to be reminded how far away those moments feel. I'm embarrassed, honestly. I don't want people to know I'm struggling. I don't want pity, but I want understanding. It's lonely, feeling like you're the only one in your circle who's constantly counting pennies, who's nervous about the bank balance. I've had to postpone so many dreams. I wanted to travel, to see the world before settling into a career. I wanted to go back to school, maybe get a master's degree to open doors. I dreamed about buying a home someday or even just moving out of this cramped, noisy apartment. But those dreams feel like distant stars, beautiful but unreachable. Every month, I push those plans further into the future because the present demands I survive first. Sometimes, I feel trapped by it all. Like I'm stuck in a rat race with no finish line. I see people around me investing, saving for retirement, buying cars or houses, starting families, but for me, It feels like just keeping the lights on is an accomplishment. I'm scared of debt, but sometimes it feels like the only way out would be to take on more debt, which terrifies me even more. My emotional well-being has taken hits I didn't expect. Anxiety creeps in when I think about bills due, or when the bank balance drops too low. Sleepless nights come more often now, and it's hard to feel hopeful when the system seems designed to keep you squeezed tight. Sometimes, I cry alone in my room because the pressure feels overwhelming, and I'm embarrassed because I thought I was supposed to be strong enough to handle it all. But I do try to cope. I remind myself that this moment doesn't define me. I lean on small joys, a walk in the park, a book from the library, a phone call with a friend. I've started budgeting like a spreadsheet ninja, cutting corners where I can, learning to say no without guilt. I take pride in the small victories, paying off a credit card, saving a little bit each month, cooking a meal that tastes good despite the budget. More than anything, I try to hold on to hope. Hope that someday, things will be different. Maybe the economy will change, or maybe I'll find a better job or a side hustle that brings in extra cash. I dream of the day when I don't have to live paycheck to paycheck, when I can treat myself without guilt, when I can plan for the future instead of just trying to survive today. It's not easy admitting all this, but I think there's something honest in being vulnerable about the struggle. I'm not alone in feeling trapped by a system that rewards the wealthy and squeezes the rest of us dry. And maybe, by speaking my truth, I can find connection, and maybe even a way forward. For now, I keep going. Because what else is there to do? I take it one day at a time, one small step at a time, hoping that someday, the pressure will ease, and the dreams I put on hold will finally come back within reach. Sometimes, when I lie awake at night, I try to count the reasons why I'm still holding on. It's not that I'm not tired, I am. Bone-weary tired, like I've been running a race with no finish line in sight. But I keep going because what else can I do? This life, this relentless financial pressure, it feels like a weight pressing down on my chest every single day. I'm 27, and by all accounts, I should be somewhere else, or at least feel like I'm moving forward. Instead, I'm stuck in this grinding cycle where my expenses grow faster than my paycheck ever will. Rent goes up. Food prices creep higher. Car repairs show up like bad surprises that never end. And yet, my income stays almost exactly the same, or sometimes dips when hours get cut. I work hard, 2 jobs, sometimes 3, and still, at the end of the month, I'm scraping by. It's like filling a bucket with holes in the bottom. Some days, it feels like the system is designed to keep me trapped. Like the rules were written with the assumption that everyone has a safety net, a family who can help, or some secret to making life cheaper. But that's not my reality. I don't have parents I can ask for help. I don't have a big network or savings. What I have is a stack of bills and a fridge that sometimes stays empty for too many days in a row. And I wonder, how did it come to this? I've learned to live small, really small. My apartment is tiny, just enough space for me and the essentials. I share a room with my dog because even the cost of a second bedroom is a luxury I can't afford. When I look at my bank app, the numbers make me anxious. Sometimes I don't even want to check it because I know the balance will just remind me how little wiggle room I have. I plan my days around what I can afford, which means skipping social outings, refusing invitations to anything that costs money, and buying generic brands instead of what I want. But it's not just the money. It's the emotional toll. There's this constant knot of worry in my stomach, like a low hum of fear that never turns off. Will I be able to pay rent this month? Will my car last long enough to get me to work tomorrow? Will I have to choose between groceries and medicine? That kind of stress gets into your bones. It makes you feel small and insignificant, like you're just a number on someone else's balance sheet. I remember when I was a kid, I had dreams. Big ones. I wanted to travel, to move to a city where I didn't know anyone, to study something that excited me. I wanted to learn how to play guitar, to go out dancing on weekends, to try new restaurants and meet new people. But those dreams feel farther away every day. I've had to postpone them, indefinitely, it seems. The idea of investing in myself feels like a luxury when I'm still struggling to survive month to month. Sometimes, I ask myself if I'm just not working hard enough, if I'm missing some secret that would pull me out of this. But the truth is, I'm exhausted. Working 2 jobs just to make ends meet doesn't leave much energy for anything else. And when I do get a day off, I spend it catching up on sleep or doing laundry or trying to clean my tiny apartment. There's no time, and sometimes no money, left for self-care or mental health. I try to cope by focusing on the small things. Like my morning coffee, cheap but comforting. Or my dog's happy face when I come home after a long day. Or calling my best friend, even if I can't see them in person. Those moments are tiny sparks of light in a world that often feels dim. I've started journaling, too, just to get my thoughts out instead of letting them swirl around in my head and make me feel worse. Sometimes, I let myself imagine a different future. What if I got a better job? What if I could afford a nice place to live without fear every month? What if I had enough to save, even just a little, for a rainy day? I dream about buying a guitar and learning to play it, just for me. I dream about traveling to the coast, feeling the ocean breeze and not worrying about how much money I'm spending. Those dreams keep me going, even if they feel impossible right now. I know I'm not alone in this. I hear friends and coworkers talking about the same struggles, the inflation, the rising rent, the paycheck that barely covers gas and groceries. It's like we're all running on a treadmill that speeds up every year, but our legs don't get any stronger. Sometimes, it makes me angry. Angry that the system seems set up to keep people like me barely afloat. Angry that hard work doesn't always mean better opportunities. Angry that the cost of living is spiraling out of control while wages stay stagnant. But beneath the anger, there's a deep sadness. Because this pressure wears you down. It chips away at your confidence and your hope. It makes you question your worth and your future. And it's lonely. Even surrounded by people, you feel like you're carrying a burden no one else really understands. Yet, here I am. Still moving forward, even if it's one slow step at a time. I remind myself that survival is its own kind of strength. That even on the hardest days, I'm still trying. I still want more for myself, even if it feels out of reach. I hold on to the hope that one day, things will be different, that I'll have the freedom to chase those postponed dreams, to live without the constant fear of not having enough. For now, I do what I can. I budget tightly, I look for side gigs, I cling to the small joys that make life bearable. And I tell my story, because maybe, if more people hear it, maybe something will change. Maybe the system will start to notice the people trapped inside it. Maybe one day, the weight will lift, and I'll finally feel free. Until then, I keep breathing, keep hoping, keep trying. Because what other choice do I have? I never thought I'd find myself here, stuck, tangled in this constant grind where no matter how hard I work, it feels like the weight of the world just keeps pressing down harder. I'm 26 now, living in a small, cramped apartment in a city that feels way too expensive for someone like me, someone who's barely getting by. And honestly, some days it's just exhausting. It's not like I'm lazy or unmotivated. I have a full-time job, well, more like 2 jobs if I'm honest, because the paycheck from one barely covers the basics. But even with the overtime and the weekend shifts, it's like I'm pouring water into a bucket with a hole in it. Every time I think I'm making progress, expenses jump again, rent hikes, utility bills that creep higher every month, groceries that cost more than I remember, and don't get me started on healthcare. I'm constantly juggling, trying to decide what to pay and what to put off until next month, but next month comes, and it's the same story. Some mornings, I wake up with this pit in my stomach, that heavy feeling you get when you know you have a mountain of bills to face but nowhere near enough money to tackle them. It's like being trapped in a loop, where the system just doesn't care about the little guy. Inflation goes up, wages don't. Prices climb and my bank account doesn't. I see the headlines, economists talk about recessions, about markets, about growth, but none of it feels real when I'm standing at the grocery store checkout, sweating because I have to leave behind half the things I need. Or when I get a notice that my electricity bill doubled and I have to choose between paying it or filling up my tank to get to work. There's a constant background noise in my head, this stress that never truly goes away. It affects everything, the way I sleep, the way I eat, even the way I talk to people. Sometimes I feel guilty when I laugh or enjoy myself because there's always that voice reminding me, you shouldn't be spending money on that. What if something urgent comes up? Social events become calculations. Can I afford the price of the ticket? The dinner? The drinks? I end up saying no more often than yes, and the loneliness seeps in. I've had to postpone so many dreams. I always wanted to travel, see new places, learn new things. I thought about going back to school to finish my degree or take courses that could help me advance. But those plans now feel like luxuries I can't afford. I've shelved hopes of saving for a house, for starting a family someday, even for simple things like upgrading my old laptop or getting a decent winter coat. Everything is about survival, getting through the month without falling deeper into debt. Coping with this pressure is hard. I've started cutting back wherever I can, canceling subscriptions, cooking more at home, biking instead of taking the bus, hunting for discounts and second-hand deals. Sometimes, I use distraction, watching old TV shows, scrolling through social media, or binge reading books I borrowed from the library, to escape that suffocating feeling. But it's a fragile balance because these are all temporary fixes. The anxiety still bubbles beneath the surface. I've tried to talk about it with close friends, but it's hard to explain the invisible chains of financial pressure. They say, just budget better, or try saving a little every month, but when your paycheck barely covers rent and food, saving feels like a cruel joke. I feel ashamed sometimes, like I should be able to handle this better, like I'm failing at adulthood. And that shame makes me even more isolated. The system feels rigged against people like me. It's not just personal failure, it's the reality of an economy that rewards a few but leaves many struggling. I see it all around me, friends moving back home to live with their parents because rent is insane, others working multiple jobs just to scrape by, people delaying major life milestones indefinitely. It's this shared, quiet desperation. Despite all of this, I hold on to hope. Not the loud, grand hope of sudden success or riches, but the quiet hope that things can get better, even if just a little at a time. I dream about a future where I don't have to say no to opportunities because of money, where I can breathe easier, where my efforts are matched by my rewards. Maybe it means advocating for change, maybe it means finding a different path, or maybe it's just keeping my head down and moving forward, one small step at a time. I'm learning to be kinder to myself, to recognize that surviving this isn't a failure. It's resilience. And while the trap still holds me tight today, I believe that someday, I'll break free, and maybe, just maybe, my story will help someone else feel less alone in their struggle. Because beneath the stress and the fear, there's a person who still dreams, still hopes, and still believes in something better. That's what keeps me going. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up every time I think I've caught up. Some days, I feel like I'm barely holding on, watching my expenses rise like an endless tide, while my paycheck stays stubbornly flat, or worse, feels like it's shrinking after taxes and rent and everything else. I'm 27, and honestly, I thought by now I'd have a bit more breathing room. Instead, I'm here in this small apartment that's just big enough to remind me how tight things are. The walls feel close, not because of the space itself, but because I'm suffocating under the weight of bills, debts, and a future that feels more like a question mark than a plan. Every morning, I wake up and check my bank app, a little ritual that's become a mix of hope and dread. The number blinks back at me, unchanged from yesterday or maybe a bit lower, depending on the week's expenses. Rent eats up a huge chunk, almost half my income, and the rest? Utilities, groceries, student loans, transportation, phone, and on and on. And there's no escaping those creeping costs either. Groceries keep getting more expensive, gas prices climb, even though I'm trying to cut back by walking or biking. It's like the universe is quietly daring me to stay afloat. I remember when I graduated college, full of dreams about the future. I pictured myself traveling, maybe living in a different city, starting some side projects that could one day turn into a career. But reality hit hard. I found a job, one that pays the bills but doesn't leave much room for anything else. Promotions are rare and slow, cost of living keeps rising, faster than any raise I could hope for. I've had to postpone dreams I thought were a given, like saving for my own place or even just a vacation to breathe outside the stress. I've gotten good at prioritizing. It's a skill born from necessity. I skip on eating out, even when I'm exhausted and craving a break. Social invitations become math problems. Can I afford this night out? Will this weekend trip leave me short on rent? I say no more often than I want. The loneliness that creeps in isn't just about being physically alone, it's the isolation that comes from feeling stuck while everyone else seems to be moving forward. Some days, the pressure crushes me. I lie awake at night, heart racing, thinking about what I haven't done, what I should be doing, and how every step forward feels like 2 steps back. I'm tired in a way that sleep can't fix, tired of juggling numbers, tired of hoping for stability, tired of watching my friends talk about buying homes or changing careers while I'm just trying to keep my head above water. But even in the hardest moments, I find ways to cope. Music is a refuge. Writing down what I feel, like I'm doing now, helps me hold on to some clarity amid the chaos. Sometimes I'll take a walk in the evening, just to remind myself that the world is bigger than these walls and the relentless math of expenses. I reach out to close friends when I can, even if it's just to say, I'm struggling, and their support means more than I can say. I dream about a day when money isn't a constant shadow, when I can breathe without calculating the cost of every choice. I want to travel, to see the places I read about in books and dreamed of as a kid. I want to invest time and energy into things that light me up, not just things that keep me afloat. I want to feel secure enough to plan for the future instead of just hoping I can make it through the next month. But for now, I'm here, doing what I can. Paying the rent, cutting corners, holding tight to hope. The system feels rigged, like it's designed to keep people like me chasing our tails, always a bit behind, always catching up but never quite there. And that's the hardest part, the feeling that no matter how hard I work or how careful I am, the deck is stacked against me. Still, I remind myself that this isn't the whole story. I'm more than my paycheck, more than my bills. I'm still here, still trying. And maybe that's enough, for now. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm holding on to the hope that someday, things will change, that the pace will slow, that the numbers will finally start to add up. Until then, I'll keep moving forward, step by step, even when it feels impossible. Because giving up isn't an option, even when the system says it is. This is my reality. My struggle. But also my story, honest, raw, and waiting for a better chapter. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. It's strange how money can shape every corner of your life without you even realizing it until you're stuck in a place where it just never feels like enough. I'm 26 now, and for the past few years, financial pressure has been this constant, gnawing presence, like a low hum you can't quite turn off. It's not just about bills or rent or food, though those are enough on their own to cause panic. It's the way money dictates the rhythm of my days, the conversations I avoid, and the dreams I tuck away in a drawer somewhere deep inside me, hoping they don't get dusty. I graduated college with a decent degree, or at least I thought it was decent. I believed it'd lead me somewhere, anywhere better than the precarious life I saw my parents living. But the economy didn't exactly cooperate. Entry-level jobs barely pay enough to cover the basics, and everything, rent, utilities, groceries, keeps climbing, like some cruel game where the rules change every day and I'm losing points. Every paycheck feels like it's meant to cover the cost of survival rather than building a life. I feel trapped in a system that seems designed to keep me running in place. Some days, the anxiety hits me like a wave. I'll be sitting at my tiny kitchen table, staring at a stack of unopened bills, the overdue notices glaring like accusations. My phone buzzes with another text from a friend asking if I want to go out, and I have to lie, saying I'm tired or busy, because I can't afford it feels like admitting defeat. It's exhausting, this constant weighing of every decision. Do I cook at home and eat the same meal 3 nights in a row? Or do I skip lunch so I can have coffee with a friend and pretend I'm not drowning? It's a math problem with no solution. I try to keep it together, because showing weakness feels like losing twice. I work a full-time job in retail, hours that stretch longer than my energy does, and a part-time gig freelancing here and there. Still, the gap between income and expenses yawns wider every month. Inflation feels like this invisible force, slowly tightening a noose around my budget. Rent increases every year like clockwork, utilities spike during winter, and groceries get pricier with every trip to the store. I've read about the wage stagnation, the rising cost of living, the economic reports that talk about systemic challenges and market adjustments. But reading about it doesn't fix the gnawing emptiness in my wallet or the sinking feeling in my chest when I realize I'm still months away from paying off last year's credit card debt. There's a bitter irony in how this pressure affects my mental health. The stress makes me exhausted, sometimes to the point where I can't get out of bed. But resting feels irresponsible when the bills are piling up, and every hour I'm not working feels like money lost. So, I keep pushing, numbing myself with cheap distractions, streaming shows, scrolling endlessly through social media, moments of retail therapy that feel like a brief escape but only leave me more anxious when the credit card bill arrives. I'm constantly on edge, waiting for the next unexpected expense that'll shove me deeper into this hole. I miss feeling free. When I was a kid, I dreamed about traveling, about living in a place where money wasn't a constant worry. I wanted to go to art school, to explore creativity without the weight of financial survival dictating every move. But those dreams started to feel like luxuries I couldn't afford, literally and figuratively. I postponed them. I told myself I'd get there someday, after I've saved enough, after the bad times pass. But the bad times have stretched out so long, they've become my reality. Sometimes, I catch myself thinking, what if this is it? What if I'm meant to just get by, not thrive? It's a frightening thought. I want more than just survival, I want to build something, stability, maybe even happiness. I want to stop fearing the future and start planning it. But that vision feels so distant, like a city skyline blurred by smog. Coping with this has meant finding small pockets of peace wherever I can. I've learned to celebrate tiny victories, managing to pay all my bills on time, resisting the urge to splurge on something unnecessary, finding moments of genuine connection with friends even if it's just a cheap walk in the park. I try to remind myself that I'm not alone, even though it often feels like I am. There are others like me, quietly struggling behind closed doors, navigating the same invisible maze. Still, the emotional toll is heavy. There are nights when I lie awake, heart pounding, wondering how long I can keep this up before something breaks, my health, my relationships, or my spirit. I fear burnout and despair, but I also hold on to a fragile hope. Hope that things might change either for me or for the system that feels so rigged against people like me. In the end, I want to believe that this pressure won't define me. I want to reclaim those postponed dreams, to create a future where money isn't the enemy but a tool to build the life I want. But until then, I keep navigating this maze, day by day, paycheck by paycheck, holding on to whatever resilience I can muster, even when it feels like survival is all I'm capable of. This is my story, unfiltered and raw, the story of living in a world where expenses outpace income, where hope is a flicker in the dark, and where every choice feels like a balancing act on a tightrope stretched too thin. I never thought money would be the thing that made me feel so small, like no matter how hard I tried, I was always just treading water, barely keeping my head above the rising tide. Growing up, I had dreams, you know? I wanted to travel, maybe go back to school for something creative, like graphic design or writing. But now, those dreams feel like distant stars, beautiful, but out of reach. Right now, I'm in my mid-20s, working a job that pays enough to keep the lights on but not enough to give me any real breathing room. Every month is a tightrope walk. Rent, utilities, groceries, student loans, car payments, phone bills, the list goes on, and each expense seems to swell faster than my paycheck does. Inflation? Rising housing costs? Gas prices? All of it feels like a storm I can't escape, no matter how hard I brace myself. Some mornings, I wake up with this sinking feeling in my chest, like I'm carrying a weight I didn't sign up for. I'll lie there for a few minutes, thinking about the week ahead. What bills are due? Will I have enough for groceries, or do I need to skip a meal here and there? Should I spend money on the bus, or will I just walk? The questions don't stop, and neither does the anxiety. One of the hardest things is the constant feeling of being trapped. It's like I'm stuck in this system that's designed to keep me scrambling, just trying to keep up. I see the prices going up around me, rent hikes, grocery bills climbing, gas costs ballooning, and yet my income feels frozen in place. The gap between what I earn and what I need just keeps widening. And that gap? It's like a canyon I'm desperately trying to cross without a bridge. I remember when I first moved out on my own, I thought maybe if I worked hard enough, I could make it. Maybe if I saved every extra dollar, I could eventually build a little cushion, something to give me some peace of mind. But reality hit hard. Emergencies happen. My car broke down last year, and the repair cost nearly a month's rent. Instead of saving, I had to scramble to cover that expense. It felt like starting over, but worse. The emotional toll is exhausting. There's a shame in feeling like you're failing at something so basic as managing your life financially. I'm constantly comparing myself to friends who seem to have their lives together or are moving ahead, buying homes, traveling, even just casually going out for coffee without a second thought. Meanwhile, I'm counting every penny, delaying medical checkups because I can't afford the copay, and sometimes just choosing between paying bills or eating well. Sometimes I feel invisible, like society has written me off because I'm just a young adult struggling to keep up. People talk about financial independence and investing for the future, but that feels like advice for another life, not mine. I don't have a 401k or extra cash to invest. My savings is whatever change I can scrape together at the end of the week. Retirement? It's so far away it might as well be a fantasy. Despite all this, I'm not giving up. I try to cope in small ways. I lean on friends when I can, though even they are dealing with their own struggles. I find little pockets of joy, a walk in the park, a cheap meal shared, a good book borrowed from the library. I try to remind myself that this isn't forever, even if it feels like it sometimes. I volunteer occasionally, which helps me feel useful and connected beyond the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. But I do have to admit, I postponed dreams. I shelved plans to go back to school because tuition isn't something I can squeeze into my budget. I canceled a planned trip to visit family across the country because the plane ticket was just too expensive. Even something as simple as buying a new laptop to improve my skills feels impossible right now. These small and big sacrifices pile up, and they weigh heavily. At night, when the world quiets down, I lie awake thinking about the future. Will things ever get better? Will I ever catch a break? I hope so. I hope for a time when I can wake up and not feel that pit in my stomach. I hope to have a home I don't have to worry about losing. I hope to build a life where I can afford to dream again, where the system doesn't feel like it's working against me but with me. Right now, though, I'm here, doing what I can. Balancing bills, making tough choices, trying to keep hope alive. Because despite everything, I believe in the possibility of a better tomorrow, even if it's still just a flicker in the dark. I never imagined that I'd feel this trapped. Not in the way people talk about being stuck in a job or a town, but trapped in something more invisible, a financial pressure that tightens around me every single day, like an unrelenting tide that I can't swim against. It's a strange thing to admit, but the truth is, I wake up and already feel like I'm behind. Behind on bills, behind on saving, behind on just living. The economic environment we're all supposed to be thriving in feels like it's built to keep people like me barely afloat. I'm 27, working a job that pays just enough to cover the essentials but never enough to feel secure. Rent eats up more than half my paycheck, and utilities, groceries, transportation, those add up too fast. Every month I sit down with a spreadsheet or an app to plan my expenses, hoping to find a little wiggle room. But it never appears. Instead, I'm left juggling numbers, prioritizing the most urgent bills, sometimes putting off payments on less urgent things just to make rent or cover food. The credit card I try not to think about grows quietly, like a shadow I can't escape. What's maddening is that my income hasn't kept pace with anything. Wages seem frozen or barely moving, but everything else, the cost of living, the price of gas, groceries, health insurance, rent, just keeps rising, faster than I can earn. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up every day, and no matter how fast I move, I'm stuck in the same place. Some days, the pressure feels overwhelming. It's not just about the money, it's about the anxiety that creeps into every decision I make. Should I buy a coffee on my way to work? That's $4. Do I risk it and spend the money for a lunch out with friends? Or bring something from home, which is cheaper but leaves me feeling a little left out, a little less connected? I find myself calculating the cost of every small pleasure, weighing it against the invisible ledger of things I need. The guilt is constant, like a dull ache in my chest. At night, when the city quiets down and I'm alone with my thoughts, I wonder how I got here. Growing up, I had dreams that felt so vivid and possible, traveling to new places, finishing grad school, maybe even buying a small home one day. I imagined a life where I had enough margin to say yes to spontaneous things, to save for emergencies, to plan for the future. But those dreams have been pushed further and further away, like something I can see on the horizon but never reach. Sometimes I feel angry. Angry at a system that seems designed to keep people like me tethered to financial stress. I know people work hard everywhere, but it feels like the deck is stacked against us, the younger generation, especially. Housing prices are sky high, and wages don't reflect the reality of what it costs just to live day to day. I hear about people pulling themselves up or making smart choices, but when I'm constantly choosing between paying rent or buying groceries, that kind of advice feels disconnected from what's really going on. But beneath the anger is a quieter feeling, a kind of exhaustion. The emotional toll of constant financial pressure is heavy. I catch myself withdrawing from friends because social outings cost money I don't have, or I'm too stressed to be fully present. There's a loneliness that sneaks in, a sense that others don't fully understand the invisible weight I carry. And sometimes, that loneliness turns into a heavy sadness, because I wonder if this pressure will ever lift. I try to cope in whatever ways I can. I've learned to budget obsessively, clipping coupons, hunting for sales, cooking meals from scratch instead of eating out. I picked up side gigs when possible, even if they barely add to my income, just to feel like I'm doing something to change my situation. I talked to a few close friends about how I'm feeling, though I'm careful not to burden them with my worries too much. Writing helps sometimes, letting the frustration and fear pour out, so I don't keep it bottled up inside. Still, there's a flicker of hope that keeps me going. I remind myself that this isn't forever. Maybe it sounds naive, but I hold on to the idea that one day I'll find a better job, maybe get a promotion, or find a way to increase my income. I dream of a time when I won't have to think twice before saying yes to something I want, a concert, a weekend trip, even just a night out with friends. I want to be able to save enough to feel secure, to not live with the constant fear of an unexpected expense ruining everything. But for now, those dreams feel fragile. They're tucked away beneath the daily grind, the balancing act, the endless calculations. I'm learning to live with the tension, holding on to hope while wrestling with reality. It's a quiet battle, one that doesn't always have a clear path forward. And sometimes, just acknowledging that struggle feels like the first step toward finding a way out. So here I am, still trying, still hoping, still dreaming, even if those dreams have to wait a little longer. Because giving up isn't really an option. Not when this is my life, and I want so much more for it. I never imagined adulthood would feel like this, like I'm sinking, slowly and silently, beneath a tide I can't control. Every morning I wake up with the weight of numbers pressing against my chest, an invisible force that tightens with every new bill, every price increase I spot when I'm out buying groceries, filling my car, or even just scrolling through the news on my phone. It's hard to explain how this kind of pressure feels. It's not like a single moment of panic but more like a constant low-grade ache, a background hum of anxiety that never quite goes away. The bills pile up. Rent, utilities, internet, phone, basic things I thought would be manageable by now. But prices rise, and my paycheck doesn't keep pace. It's as if the world's been designed to keep me just on the edge, never quite able to breathe easy. I work a full-time job, sometimes overtime, but even then, it's barely enough. I've learned to live on a razor-thin budget. Every decision feels like a test. Do I buy groceries for the week or pay for my car's oil change? Should I pick up the prescription medication I need or wait another week? I've stopped going out with friends because even a simple dinner feels like an unnecessary luxury. There's no room for fun when you're constantly calculating what you can afford. And sometimes, after paying rent and bills, I'm left wondering if I can cover the bus fare to get to work. The system feels like a trap, a loop where expenses rise faster than I can earn, and there's no clear way out. I'm trapped between wanting to move forward and feeling stuck, as if I'm just treading water, trying not to drown. I've thought a lot about what it means to get ahead, but the truth is, it feels like that idea is slipping further away with each passing day. I watch prices inflate, hear about people investing and buying homes, and it feels like they're playing a different game, one I wasn't dealt the right cards for. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There's a deep shame in admitting you're struggling, especially when you work so hard. I feel guilty every time I say no to a family gathering because I can't afford the train ticket. I hide the stress from my friends because I don't want them to see me as the broke one. But at night, when the world quiets down and I'm alone with my thoughts, the weight feels heavier. I lie awake wondering if I'll ever be able to save enough to move out of this cramped apartment, start a real emergency fund, or just relax without the gnawing fear of financial ruin. I cope by holding on to small routines that ground me. Making coffee in the morning instead of buying it. Cooking simple meals from scratch rather than ordering takeout. Sometimes I binge watch old TV shows because it's free, and it distracts me from the constant worry. I talk to close friends when I can, though I don't always share the full truth. Writing has become a small refuge. Putting feelings into words helps me untangle some of the mess inside. Despite everything, I still have dreams. But they've been pushed aside, delayed indefinitely. I once dreamed of going back to school to study something I loved, maybe creative writing or psychology. I thought about saving for a trip, just 1 week somewhere sunny and warm, a break from this endless grind. I imagined owning a home, planting a small garden, having a life that felt stable. Now, those dreams feel like distant stars, beautiful but unreachable. Sometimes I wonder if the system is designed to keep people like me locked in place. I'm told to be patient, to keep working hard, but patience only goes so far when the rent increases every year and the cost of living never stops climbing. I see how others seem to have opportunities one don't, and it makes me question my own worth, my own potential. But deep down, I hold on to a flicker of hope. Maybe the tide will turn someday. Maybe I'll find a way to break free from this cycle. I remind myself that even small steps count. Every dollar saved, every bill paid on time, every effort to improve is a tiny victory. And maybe, just maybe, those victories will build into something bigger. Until then, I keep going, because what else is there to do? I keep trying to find peace in the chaos, a little light in the darkness. I try to remember that I'm more than my financial struggles, that my dreams still matter, even if they have to wait a little longer. I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping. Some days, it feels like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and no matter how hard I push, I'm stuck in place, or worse, sliding backward. It's not a dramatic thing, like losing a job overnight or a sudden emergency. It's the slow burn of everyday life in a world where prices climb relentlessly, but my paycheck barely budges. This pressure, this constant tightening around my chest, has become the backdrop of my 20s, shaping everything from my mornings to my dreams for the future. I remember when I first moved out of my parents' house. I was excited, full of hope and determination, thinking, this is it. I'm an adult now. I've got this. But the reality hit harder than I expected. Rent prices in the city where I work have exploded. I pay nearly half my income on a tiny apartment, with a noisy neighbor above and walls thin enough to hear their every late-night phone call. Utilities, groceries, transport, all of it feels like a steep climb. I keep a spreadsheet, hoping that tracking every dollar might bring some control, but the numbers never lie, expenses grow faster than I earn. Payday is a small victory, but that relief is fleeting. There's the credit card bill reminding me of last month's emergency car repair, the student loans that were supposed to be a stepping stone but feel more like shackles, and the constant worry that something else will break or go wrong. I try to plan for the future, put some money aside for savings or a trip, but the math rarely works. After rent, food, bills, and a few essentials, there's hardly anything left. Some nights, I lie awake calculating what I'd have to cut out next: that weekly coffee? Dinner with friends? The streaming service that keeps me sane? It's exhausting, this tug-of-war between trying to live a normal life and a relentless pressure to just survive. There's a quiet shame, too. Friends talk about buying homes or moving to bigger places, about weekend getaways and career milestones. I smile and nod, but inside, there's this hollow feeling, like I'm missing out on the whole chapter of young adult life that everyone else seems to be living. I postponed dreams I thought were straightforward, traveling overseas, going back to school for something I'm passionate about, even just saving for a decent car. All of it feels like a luxury now. The emotional toll is heavy. Some days, the anxiety is a weight pressing down on my chest. I'm scared of losing my job, scared of unexpected expenses, scared that this cycle will never end. It's lonely, too. Talking about money struggles feels taboo, like admitting failure. I've learned to laugh off questions about how I'm doing because the truth is complicated and exhausting. But behind closed doors, I grapple with feelings of inadequacy and frustration. Why does it feel like the system is rigged? Why do I work so hard but still can't catch up? Coping becomes its own kind of work. I'm learning to find small pockets of joy, like cooking a meal at home instead of eating out, or taking long walks in the park to clear my head. I've started journaling, pouring out the worries and hopes, because keeping everything inside only makes it worse. I remind myself to breathe, to be kind to myself, to celebrate the little wins like paying off a bill early or resisting the urge to buy something unnecessary. Still, hope persists. It's fragile but real. I imagine a future where I'm not constantly scrambling, where I can invest in myself and my happiness. Maybe someday I'll own a place with space to breathe, travel without counting every cent, or pursue a career that feels meaningful rather than just paying the bills. I'm learning that those dreams might have to wait, but they don't have to disappear. They keep me going when the days are tough. Being trapped in this system of rising costs and stagnant wages feels like a cage, but I'm trying to see the bars for what they are: challenges to navigate, not insurmountable walls. It's a daily struggle, yes, but also a quiet fight to reclaim some sense of control and dignity. If nothing else, this experience is teaching me resilience and a deep understanding of the precariousness so many people live with, often silently. Maybe sharing this story is part of breaking the silence. Because if there's one thing I've realized, it's that I'm not alone in feeling this way, and maybe, together, we can imagine a future where this pressure isn't the norm but the exception. Until then, I'll keep walking, keep hoping, and keep trying to find balance on that speeding treadmill. I never imagined that turning 24 would come with this heavy, almost invisible weight pressing down on me every single day. When I was younger, I thought adulthood meant freedom to make choices, to explore, to live how I wanted. Instead, it feels more like being caught in a web where every move is calculated, every decision a trade-off, and no matter how hard I try, the strands keep tightening. I work 2 jobs. One is a modest desk job, the other is part-time evenings at a cafe. Together, they bring in just enough to cover rent, utilities, and groceries, with a little scraped together for the occasional treat or an emergency. But even that little keeps shrinking. Rent has jumped twice this year alone, and utility bills have soared with the rising costs of gas and electricity. The grocery store aisles are full of the foods I used to enjoy, but now I find myself avoiding them because I know the prices are just too high. I buy what's on sale, the cheapest brands, or bulk packs that last longer. Fresh fruits and vegetables? Sometimes I get lucky, but mostly, they feel like a luxury I can't afford consistently. The hardest part isn't just the numbers, though, it's the feeling that no matter what I do, I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up while I'm stuck in place. I make a budget every month, carefully plotting every cent, but by the third week, unexpected expenses show up, a car repair, a medical bill, a forgotten subscription, and suddenly the budget is a joke. I have to decide, do I pay the phone bill or do I buy groceries? Do I skip the bus and walk miles in the rain, or do I risk being late and losing the shift that means a few extra bucks? These aren't choices I ever thought I'd have to make, yet they define my days. Some mornings, I wake up feeling like I'm underwater, my chest tight with anxiety before I even open my eyes. It's exhausting, this constant mental tally of money going out and none coming in fast enough. I'm ashamed to admit that sometimes I just want to disappear from it all, to stop answering calls from debt collectors or ignore the mail piling up on the kitchen table. But reality snaps back in, those debts don't disappear, and neither does the need to keep moving forward, even if it feels impossible. I talk to my parents about this sometimes, but they're struggling too. They remind me not to lose hope, but I see the same tiredness in their eyes. Friends who have stable family support or financial cushions don't seem to grasp how crushing it is to live hand to mouth. It's like living in a glass house with everyone watching you scramble just to keep the lights on. Still, I try to find moments of light. When I can, I go to the park with a book, letting the fresh air and quiet calm be a temporary escape. I've started journaling again, pouring out the frustrations and fears, hoping that by naming them, I can make them less terrifying. Music helps too, songs that understand pain and resilience, that remind me I'm not alone in this. I think about the future, but it feels like a distant dream now. When I was a kid, I imagined college, traveling, maybe starting a family. Those plans have been pushed aside for survival. Sometimes I lie awake at night, wondering if I'll ever save enough for a small apartment of my own or if I'll always be stuck renting cramped rooms with creaky floors and noisy neighbors. The thought of buying a car, or even a reliable one, seems ridiculous when the idea of paying next month's rent feels overwhelming. Yet, despite it all, I hold on to hope. I remind myself that this moment doesn't define my entire life. I dream quietly of better days, days when money isn't a source of constant stress but a tool to build a life I love. I want to travel, to see new places, to experience freedom in the way I imagined as a kid. I want to invest in myself, whether that means going back to school or starting a small business or simply learning to live with more peace. For now, though, I keep going, step by small step. I celebrate the tiny victories, a paid bill, a good day at work, a meal shared with a friend. I try to be kind to myself when the weight feels too heavy. This isn't the life I chose, but it's the one I'm living, and I'm learning to survive it with courage I didn't know I had. If you ask me what I want most, it's to be seen, not just as someone struggling, but as someone trying, hoping, and still dreaming. That maybe one day, I'll look back and realize these hard years were just a chapter, not the whole story. I never thought I'd feel this way, so tethered, so stuck. It's like every day I wake up with this weight on my chest, a kind of invisible anchor pulling me down before I even get out of bed. The numbers never add up, no matter how hard I try. My paycheck feels smaller and smaller compared to the rising cost of just existing, rent, groceries, bills, gas, everything. I'm not sure if it's that the money is really shrinking or if the prices are just growing faster than anything else, but either way, it's like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. I work 2 jobs, one full-time office gig that barely pays enough to cover rent, and a part-time shift on weekends just to cover the extras. Sometimes I joke to myself that I'm working 3 jobs because keeping my mental health in check feels like its own exhausting labor. But jokes aside, there's this gnawing anxiety that follows me everywhere. Will I have enough next month? Can I finally put some money away, even just a little? Or am I going to have to rely on credit cards again just to get through? It's a cycle I know too well, and it's crushing. The economic pressure is relentless. When I look at my bank account, it feels like a reflection of how small and insignificant my efforts are. I budget obsessively, tracking every coffee purchase, skipping lunch out with friends, cutting down on utilities, but the savings never stick. Bills come with sneaky increments, surprise fees, and interest rates that make me feel trapped in a system I didn't ask to join but can't escape. And it's not just about the money. It's the emotional toll, the constant stress that spills over into every part of my life, making me irritable, exhausted, and sometimes just plain hopeless. There's a loneliness to this kind of struggle, too. It's hard to explain to people who seem to have a little breathing room in their lives. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining or being ungrateful. I'm aware I have a roof over my head and food on my table, but it's a precarious existence. It's the tiny moments that wear me down, hesitating to hit add to cart because the extra $5 feels like too much, missing out on birthdays because I can't afford a gift, or turning down invitations because even a night out costs more than I can spare. I've had dreams, of course. When I was younger, I imagined going back to school, maybe getting a degree that would lead to a stable, fulfilling career. I wanted to travel, to experience life beyond these city streets and cramped apartments. But those dreams keep getting postponed, pushed back like some unreachable horizon. Every time I think I might save enough for a class or a trip, an unexpected expense derails those plans: car repairs, medical bills, or simply the rising rent that leaves no wiggle room. Some days, I catch myself fantasizing about just quitting everything, walking away from jobs that barely pay and the endless hustle. But I know that's not realistic, not when the bills are stacking up and there's no safety net. Instead, I try to find small victories, like making it through a week without overdrawing my account or finally cutting down my grocery bill by cooking meals from scratch. These little wins keep me going, even when it feels like the system is designed to wear me down. The thing is, I'm not sure when this pressure will ease. Inflation talks and government reports are just numbers on the news, distant from the daily reality of choosing between necessities. It's a struggle that feels invisible to most people, a slow grind that chips away at your confidence and hope. I want to believe things will get better, that my hard work will pay off someday, but the growing gap between income and expenses makes that belief harder to hold on to. I've learned to be resourceful out of necessity, scouring thrift stores, swapping meals with friends, even turning off lights in rooms I'm not in to save a few cents on electricity. I've become an expert at budgeting apps, coupons, and price comparisons. But beneath all this, there's a part of me that feels lost, wondering if this is really what life is supposed to be, constantly struggling just to survive, with so little left over to thrive. Sometimes I lie awake at night, thinking about the life I wanted to build. A life where money wasn't a source of constant worry. A life where I could save for a home, or start a family, or even just enjoy simple pleasures without guilt. Instead, I feel stuck in this loop where expenses grow faster than my income, and every attempt to break free feels like swimming against a rising tide. But I'm still here. Still pushing forward, still hoping that one day, the numbers will work in my favor. That the paycheck will stretch farther, that I'll have the freedom to dream again without the crushing pressure of financial survival. I don't know when or how that day will come, but I hold on to that hope. It's the only thing that keeps me moving in this relentless economic storm. It's a strange kind of exhaustion that comes from living with constant financial pressure. It's not just the tiredness of a long day or the weariness that follows a stressful week, it's a deeper, gnawing fatigue that sits heavy in your chest every morning you wake up knowing that money will dictate almost every choice you make that day. For me, as a 27-year-old trying to carve out a life in a world where expenses climb faster than my paycheck grows, this feeling has become almost a permanent part of my existence. I remember when I first moved out on my own after college. There was a burst of excitement, finally independent, making my own decisions. I'd found a modest apartment in a neighborhood that wasn't fancy but was livable. My job paid just enough to cover rent, bills, and groceries if I was careful. I had plans then, dreams that felt tangible. I wanted to travel, to save for a future home, maybe even start my own business someday. But as the years have passed, those plans have shifted from someday soon to a distant, almost unreachable future. The economic environment today feels like a storm that never clears. Rent keeps creeping up. Groceries cost more with every trip to the store. Utilities and insurance, the essential services I can't live without, have felt the pinch too. Even the simplest indulgences, like grabbing a coffee or eating out with friends, have turned into decisions I have to debate over in my head. Can I really afford this without hurting my budget for the rest of the week? The answer is often no. The hardest part is the constant feeling of being trapped. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up, but your legs aren't getting any stronger. No matter how much I tighten my belt, look for cheaper alternatives, or skip non-essential expenses, the gap between what I earn and what I owe keeps widening. Every month, it's a balancing act, paying bills on time, keeping the lights on, and trying not to let debt pile up. I've learned to live without a safety net, to expect that an unexpected medical bill or car repair could throw everything off balance. It's a stressful existence that wears down your confidence and self-worth. Emotionally, the weight of money troubles is crushing. There are nights when I lie awake thinking about how I got here. The dreams I had when I was younger feel like they're slipping through my fingers. Sometimes, I wonder if it's my fault. Did I make the wrong choices? Should I have picked a different career, saved more aggressively, or been more disciplined? But then I look around and see so many others struggling in similar ways. It's a systemic problem, not just a personal failing. To cope, I've had to develop a kind of mental armor. I compartmentalize my worries during the day, forcing myself to focus on work or the tasks at hand. I celebrate small victories, like finding a sale on something essential or getting through the month without overdrawing my account. Sometimes, I lean on friends or family, although I hesitate to burden them with my financial stress. Social pressure adds another layer. Seeing others post about vacations or new purchases can sting, reminding me of what I'm missing out on. There are moments of shame, too. The times I've had to say no to invitations because I can't afford it, or the times I borrowed money just to make ends meet. I try to keep those feelings private, but they linger inside, feeding a sense of isolation. Yet, despite it all, I cling to hope. I remind myself that this isn't permanent. I keep tweaking my budget, searching for side gigs, investing in skills that might open new doors. I dream about the day when money isn't the dictator of my choices, when I can save freely and invest in experiences that enrich my life rather than simply cover survival. I imagine owning a home, maybe starting a family, and having enough financial security to say yes to life's joys without hesitation. But until then, the reality is a daily grind filled with tough decisions and silent battles. It's a slow slog through a system that feels designed to keep people like me just barely afloat. And while that's frustrating and painful, I try to remember that I'm not alone in this struggle. Many others share this feeling of being caught in the same relentless tide. If I could speak directly to someone who hasn't experienced this, I'd say, living under this kind of financial pressure is more than numbers on a page. It shapes your whole existence, your choices, your relationships, your sense of self. It's an emotional weight that doesn't just go away. So when you see someone hustling hard but still struggling, remember that their fight isn't just about money, it's about survival, hope, and the quiet resilience to keep moving forward, one day at a time. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.